This thing is not long for the world, and it still needs to wait for the cooldown to come back. Oh no, it's off cooldown. It's off cooldown. But here's the bad news, which I'm going to bet our blue player did not see coming. That is savage! Oh, baby, look at this. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. We're jumping into some more Phobies action. We're going to be talking about more viewer games, some Fright Night action, and maybe some general theory crafting. So let's jump in. All right, so we're jumping into a replay. Another user, or I keep saying that, another viewer submitted replay. One of these days I'll say that right on the first try. But we're jumping into a viewer submitted replay. If you want to submit your own replays to get broken down on stream or YouTube videos, and come on by the Random Thoughts Discord. You can see it in the YouTube video description or exclamation point. Discord on the live stream if you want to see the live stream, so you can get some live Phobies action. Come on over to RTChompGG on Twitch. Playing Phobies a lot. Do get some other stuff in, but mostly Phobies at this stage. So let's jump into this replay. Alright, so we are on... I don't remember what the hell this map is. This map I'm not even sure is in the rotation at this stage, but our hero here is in the blue trunks starting on the left-hand side. Now this is an interesting opener here. We do see the ultra rare spider. I have to just advance this a little bit so I can click on it. So this is Sockassin. Claiming the top spot, that's reasonable, sending something up there. What's a little abnormal about this is the Gravedigger opening. Now this is a map where you can, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, put say a murder wing, a Maggie, something like that, a droney, onto the spot. But you do risk bad things happening to it. Snowballs in conjunction with Jar could blow up something that's somewhat fragile. So I've seen people take this more defensive approach, where it's claiming your own point, claiming the top point. But Gravedigger itself is very strange, or as I put it earlier, abnormal. It's definitely interesting seeing it done this way, so we'll see how it goes. The opponent here on the orange side elects to mirror it with Gravedigger. And then into a cat to do the same sort of thing as we saw on blue team's side, but they're choosing to bank, which means that they're all the way up to 7 keys, which is a pretty solid break point. I haven't seen too many 6s that... I mean, there's the Rambolinas of the world, but there's no Abyss here. There's a variety of different things that could come out at 6, but 7, I think, is where a lot of the bigger, nastier things start to show up. So instead, we see a build-up with Jar here, and an answer with Flesh Crawler. So blue player now is sitting at that 7 key threshold, but orange has the first act with the big monstrosity, obviously being Flesh Crawler. While the Gravedigger was able to claim the center point, we're in kind of a weird spot here. We're in a weird spot because Flesh Crawler is... I want to be able to click on it, see what level it is. This is a level 6 Flesh Crawler, so it's doing 690 damage with its AoE and then shrinking as it goes out farther. I'm not sure what drove them to do this other than I want my 7 cost online. Typically, when I'm trying to get value out of Flesh Crawler, it's because there's an enormous swath, a horde, a swarm of smaller key units where you walk in, you pop Raising Hell, and suddenly everything evaporates. That doesn't quite seem to be the scenario here. They're pretty spread out. You know, they're a little tanky. They're not hugely tanky, but they're fairly tanky. You don't have a lot of surface area in order to hit it with this. And I mean, maybe they counted it up and somehow like an attack from the cat, this, and the extended version of Raising Hell is worth it. I don't know. But we do see Sormor follow up with Baba Yaga, which is the bane of my existence, maybe? I don't know. It's not quite that far, but it's pretty close. And Baba Yaga dropped this trap, which we can see traps sometimes on replays. I'm not real sure what the bug is. I don't know. Maybe somebody in chat knows. But anyway, Baba Yaga comes down. This may have telegraphed the trap, but to a degree, who cares? You know, like, okay, they know where the trap is. They might forget by the end of the game, or, you know, they just didn't notice. Because sometimes it can be difficult to track the traps. So we see an interesting follow-up, which is Stairmaster going to their stim. Honestly, I don't really see what the point of this one is. I guess they wanted to threaten the jar, but the problem is you would have had to move to the lava tile, which means that other things could have interacted with it, or you dive it. I don't know. That just seems really weird. But regardless, everything else is frozen in place. Also a little strange. And we see the Klepto come out. Klepto comes out, immediately makes it onto the stem, and at this stage, our blue player is in the driver's seat. They have control of the majority of the panic points. They have a solid defensive position. If they want to, they can start doing cute things either with Gravedigger or setting up extra traps. But we see a sheep come in for even more AoE. Like, that's a lot of AoE that's coming out of orange player. But we see the retreat. The retreat here makes sense to me. I'm not sure if this is where you want the trap. The sheep can't connect this turn, only the flesh crawler can. And if it goes onto the lava tile, that's bad. So I think the logic here is that the trap comes down in the only position that's going to allow a multi-hit from the flesh crawler without it being on a lava tile. So I can respect it. The other option was, of course, to move the Baba Yaga and maybe put it here. But that would have required rearranging like the whole team to make sure that you don't get hit by a sheep and blah, blah, blah. Basically, this seems fine. Orange player needs to commit in. The only, maybe not the only drawback, but one of the big drawbacks here is that you don't have a great way to capitalize on the cat running into the center here. Now, I say that, but at the same time, you do still have a 1 key on the board, so you can blow up the cat. Obviously, you're going to be able to do it with Klepto and Jar. Maybe just Klepto. Yeah, it's doing 800 a clip. This is a pretty big Klepto. Now, this is a level 6. So you pop the cat, you send in the spider, and then you're in the trading wars that we've seen on Like and Subscribe and a number of other maps, where you break this block, which calls back to the turn 1 play that Sormor made to try and reinforce why that may have happened. Breaking this block allows you a free run at the middle, because then you get 2 move, and all of a sudden a 1 key is standing on the center point. And again, as we saw on Like and Subscribe, this can be pretty important in order to make sure that you're able to do that trading, that you can get in there without having to expend a ton of resources. You don't have to commit a sheep or a flesh crawler or a stairmaster or even a gravedigger onto the center point, which is immediately going to get blown up because Klepto's just going to annihilate it. Like, it's what's going to happen. So we do see the flesh crawler come in. It does get a pretty solid hit, but it doesn't actually kill anything. It just softens them up, which is reasonable given that we see a hematic Ginsting. Shout out to all my bee fans out there. We have more bees. Bees! I'm sure lots of somebody's are probably going to spend a lot of channel points right here. But we get more bees. This is pretty cool for a variety of reasons. Notably, let me click off. Notably, all these things are now super soft. We have 111 health on the spider. Yep, they're the bees. Get some bees action. We have a 163 health jar. These things have to get out of there because the Ginsting will make life complicated. It's going to be a multi-kill. But we do have also the trap activating on this flesh crawler, which is now down to only about 1,700 health. A little bit of GG. Meaning that this thing is going to die. There's a lot of ways that it can die. It should die. You can't allow it to stay there. But between the Ginsting and the sheep, orange player is going to be able to advance in a pretty solid fashion, we'll say. So we do see a Baba Yaga end up, I guess, face tanking here. This is very interesting. Ooh. Oh, I know a lot of people are going to be unhappy about this guy. A lot of people are going to be unhappy about this guy. We see a Grimes show up. Immediately pop out, get a kill on this. How much attack does it go to? Because that guy is mad. Can't be right. But we have the great reformation happening here. Now, Grimes is dimensional, but it's so close to each of the vaults that there's just no way. That guy is mad. There's not a Clinico or a Muffin or even a Dr. Dermic to make something happen. So instead, this wall off here with the Gravedigger, it's pretty reasonable. Now, unfortunately, that means that a Jar and a Gravedigger go down thanks to the Hematic Instinct, so I don't know that this positioning was spectacular. I can understand the Gravedigger body block, but keeping the Jar there seems like a mistake. Making YouTube vids and chat spamming redemptions, which wins. Hey, it happens. It happens. But we do see the cleanup there with Klepto. Kind of expected. What's unexpected here is that Sormor is hellbent on going a very dimensional heavy setup into a sheep. This sheep is probably going to come up and gas Gargles, but here's the bad news. The Gargles can just retreat to this healing spot. Now, it's possible the combination... Well, the Gargles should not die because I was about to say the Hematic can come down onto the stim, but it was not going to be enough damage to actually pressure it all that much. It can still retreat, it's still fine, but I'm imagining Sormar's intending to take the center and turn into a statue or something like that. There isn't enough move right now this turn to pull that off, but we'll see where it goes. Now, we do have another pull online this turn, which is bad news for this Hematic Instinct. Does this actually go down? Oh, no! Chat. Okay, so the card doesn't change. It just changes down here. It's 920 damage down here. Followed up with an Erratic to counter the Fish Tank. I can respect that. I can respect that. That makes sense. The one-cost Spider's clearly getting in. It's just going to recap the point. You don't care about the lava damage here for obvious reasons. You're just going to walk away. And this thing is almost doing 1,000 damage a clip now. It's going to start one-shotting even big things at this stage. So, Orange players under an enormous amount of pressure, and they only have 5 keys remaining, 3 of which just got invested in this Murderfly, and the remaining 2 into Cassowary. While our hero of the story only has 2 keys remaining, look at this board versus this board. You have a Grimes, which admittedly has to heal, a Gargles that has to heal, but a healthy Erratic that's going to counter this Fish Tank. You have Klepto already lined up on the stim. Arguably, it could have been repositioned. A Spider that, as long as you get it out, is going to be able to pull once again, versus Fish Tank, which is virtually irrelevant. A fairly beat-up Sheep, and then, like, Stairmaster. I mean, these other Phobies are good, but as long as you're paying attention, you should never have anything of yours get caught out where they can actually leverage something. We'll have to see if Orange player actually makes this more interesting, but right now, it's not looking good. So we see a Gargles to block off the side of the board, which is kind of cute. It prevents any shenanigans from happening with the stim. It also allows Grimes an easy place to advance. So it can drop right below the Spider and the Gargles, and the only thing that can realistically hit it is the Murder Wing, unless Orange swings Cassowary all the way to the bottom. Now, this is a larger map, so we haven't seen someone take over 4 of the 5 panic points, or something like that, or 5 of the 5 panic points. It's realistically just been a +1 advantage for one player or the other. So this is not a map that often comes down to, oh, well, I'm going to beat you up with heart damage. It can be challenging to do that. A lot of the time, in my experience, it's simply been, I'm going to finish the game by eliminating your Phobies. And eliminating Phobies is what we start seeing here. The Sheeping Gas comes in, is able to eliminate the Eternal Night, not a big deal. It is able to poison the Erratic, though, but even more importantly, the Erratic gets tagged by everything else. So if we go back a turn, if I were in Sormar's position, I can understand why you would think this invade is a decent play. Because I'm up by a bunch of Phobies, I'm in good shape, I have panic point control, they don't have a whole lot, and if they advance with, say, Fish Tank, they're going to be able to, I'm going to blow it up. The problem is that you're, again, we've talked about this before, it's like the challenges in the main part of the UI. Use their dimensional Phobies to pull your guys out of position so that way you can get better surface area. So this allowed all of these Phobies to connect, and oddly enough, that maybe they didn't even need it. Like, the Murder Wing could have connected too, as long as the fish tank is able to put a big hurt on the erratic. So this is a point where you could throw this game, because look at this. Now it's all of a sudden like 3 Phobies versus this. But this was a great pull. Again, we saw this yesterday. Gargles does not stop the Gargles players' stuff from having line of sight. So the Spider, or even blocking the pathing. So the Spider's able to walk through, get some good Klepto hits. But this is pretty dangerous. This is pretty dangerous here. So we have, again, a scenario where Fish Tank can walk up. We get double hits out of the Stairmaster. There's a lot of mean things that could happen here. Like, I have a hard time believing this Grimes survives this turn, right? Yeah, there's no way this Grimes lives. The Spider also is going to go down. So now we're looking at this board versus Klepto and Gargles. This game turned around quick, all because of that one turn. That single turn cost an enormous amount of keys. And it was a position in which it was an unforced error, we'll say. Like, it didn't need to happen. Now, I'm sure since we can't see the takebacks... Oh, that was actually pretty funny. We can't see the takebacks, but I'm sure on this turn, and I'm just rewinding it so we can walk through it. Oh, didn't rewind far enough. I'm sure on this turn that Sormor had attempted different combinations of this, because it sure looks like you might have been able to just hit the fish tank twice, thereby resulting in more damage on the Stairmaster, but maybe you don't get the cassowary then. But the cool part is because Orange had to make some of the positioning plays that they did, they put a bunch of stuff on lava tiles, which resulted in those Phobies dying, which... Did they actually need to do this? So this being there was fine. The Clinico. But the question is... We'll have to let it play through because you can't fast forward. But the Murder Wing... I guess they were just concerned about all of that landing on... Yeah, like the AoE landing on Murder Wing probably gets... No, it had 820 health. So they needed to do this differently. Orange, that is. They could have finished the Grimes with the Clinico, pulled it off the lava. Additionally, it wouldn't have damaged the Murder Wing, therefore it would have survived the lava damage. It could have died anyway, but that was definitely, again, an unforced error. It was an error that didn't have to happen. It may have cost them this game because, think about it, if this turn, okay, they blow up Cassowary and they blow up Fish Tank. Yes, that's bad. But they could have had still a live Clinico and a live Murder Wing in order to try and fight this. The combination of those two and a hit from Stairmaster probably kill Klepto. Because it would have been 590 plus, we'll say another 5. Actually, no, that wouldn't have been enough because this is 1400 health. It would have only been like 1200 damage. So they still would have been in a rough spot, but clearly a better position than what they are right now. So now we see the Great Retreat is on. The Stairmaster and Cat are just, I guess, delaying at this stage. But we did see games yesterday that we reviewed in which this delaying tactic, your opponent can sometimes just make a positioning mistake, and they do something silly, and then you're able to leverage something. So they're trying to make the best of their life total, repositioning, getting some heals on the Stairmaster, but we have Gargles down here, ensuring that there's still additional pressure on the heart. It's not... This is a little scary, but it doesn't really matter too much because the Cat's only going to be able to hit the Klepto once. If you're wondering why move to this stim, like I said, yes, you're risking some damage here, but I don't know that it matters too much. This matters, though. This matters, though. You have to retreat from this because the combination of these two will ensure a takedown. So we're just doing the end of game dance here. And like I said, it's entirely possible that Orange was just banking on Sormor making a mistake in positioning at this stage. But given the life lead, even if they're giving up a number of panic points, which you don't even necessarily have to do, you could just simply dive the heart at the end of the day. It's not really going to make too much of a difference if your opponent tries to do anything cute with this. They're just down a million life. Thankfully, all of the advantages that were built up over the course of the game led to this, so that you have all of these different options. Because even from here, it's, okay, I'm on a stim, I can lob. Good luck. You can't dislodge me from here. So this was pretty solid game. Aside from those two mistakes being the one on Sormor's part, because I think that invade was unnecessary, even though it did work out. It put the game in doubt when it didn't need to be, and the second mistake was on Orange's side, not necessarily even on that turn. Although there were things that I think could have been done differently on that turn, the one where Grimes was eliminated. But leading up to that, it was possible to punish Sormor even harder for the invade, aside from blowing up the erratic and pushing damage on everything else. But that was a pretty cool attack anyway, and almost brought things back. So shout out to Sormor for submitting this game. This is a pretty cool one. GG is right. Let's jump into this game from Claus. So shout out to Claus for submitting this one. This is on Crypto, which just came back into the rotation and was one of the maps that I really liked before it rotated out. So let's take a peek at this particular game. So we have Claus in the orange trunks and Aqua in the blue. Aqua takes the first turn here, and let's see how they open. Really? So Aqua has a very unique opener on this map from what I've seen, and in that case, it's strictly Cat, banking to 5 keys. Claus, on the other hand, has gone Gravedigger into Henrietta, which we saw this on a different replay yesterday, breaking this block down here by the heart. Whoa! What is happening here? Alright, we're going to talk about the Gravedigger play, and then what could be happening out of Aqua. So, the Gravedigger play, I actually like positioning it more aggressively in order to, and I talked about this yesterday on the Crypto, whoever was playing on that map. So, to the west of Henrietta here, or the east of the Cat, you have these single blocks where you could drop a Gravedigger statue and then seal off your opponent, depending on which side you're coming from getting to that point, so that you have to force the fight over the other ones. This way, your opponent is limited in the rotations. What do I mean by that? Well, this map kind of devolves into, at least in my experience, it was Jar and Murder Wing trying to contest your opponent's Jar and Murder Wing, jockeying for position surrounding the stims. Breaking this block down here, as we saw Claus do, allows you some more room both to get things into the fight faster as well as reposition. But the difference with my line is that it allows you to force the fight here and not allow your opponent to rotate to the bottom in order to take that point in lieu of trying to take the center one. Now, does that really matter, my line? Possibly not, simply because this stim still covers the defensive panic point. Point being is whether you take the middle or you take the bottom one, they're going to be able to blow you up with something on the panic point. So I'm starting to appreciate more this alternative Gravedigger opening. And of course, if you keep the Gravedigger alive and preserve it, you could always utilize it later for what I was suggesting, or locking your opponent off in some other way. Now, I was kind of blown away because Aqua went turn 1 Cat into Bank followed by Bank, which is strange. Like I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to get to at 8, but I have a feeling we're going to find out very quickly. Now, the question is, does Claus try and be more aggressive with this? They do not. They banked. So we see a follow-up with Mount Crushmore, who, like Gravedigger, can break and create obstacles. So we see a similar pathway opened on Blue's side of the map. Now, we're going back and forth, apparently, and trading banks, because Claus now is on 9. Now, I'm a little surprised that Henrietta didn't end up in this center space sooner. Like, it could have taken it a couple turns ago, I believe, and then it would have been before the Crushmore was online and in position. Regardless, we see a Hevo 2.0, which is actually pretty cool. Both Crushmore and Hevo are lobbers, but Hevo offers the opportunity, instead of breaking blocks, to actually boop your opponent via a ranged lob, as opposed to a melee lob, I guess. Point is that you can use the lob here to displace other things, and it's probably going to come in handy here in ensuring the inability of the opponent to stand on the stim successfully. Yes, they'll be able to move back into position, but they only get a single stim hit as opposed to 2, which is a big deal. Like, that's an enormous difference in damage. So we went from... We're just getting banks left and right. So we do see the boop here, which, as mentioned, will push them away. And now we see a block with this. This is interesting. So now Claws controls all 3 panic points and has double lobbers set up. Now, the boop will be on cooldown. And Crushmore can still lob over the statue. So this statue is kind of interesting. It does make positioning a little more challenging for Aqua, but I'm not sure how important this is. So we see a Ray Chargels follow-up, which I can kind of respect because, you know, we have double mechs on the other side. It's what you're going to see. I was expecting some sort of electrical phobia. Then we see, because there was such an enormous bank, specifically 11 keys, we got Ray Chargels, Jar, and Spud. Spud is... Shout out to all my Spud fans out there. The cat is going to be a casualty here. There's not much you can do. But from here, we just see Claws backing off, which is appropriate. You can only back off so much, though, because Ray Chargels is going to go in, and there's going to be... If Aqua elects to, which it looks like they're not, they could have gone in pretty deep. They could have dove with Chargels, Crushmore, and Spud and tagged everything. Well, the problem is not all of the attacks would have landed on the same Hevo, so they probably would not have killed anything, just done a bunch of damage, and then maybe risked a bunch of deaths in the counterattack. So, we did get a cheap Phobie here, which is the advantage, calling earlier attention again to the Gravedigger and Crushmore obstacle breaks, respectively. Instead of having to take the scenic route, which, I mean, they would have gotten here anyway, so maybe this isn't great pointing this out, but they're able to sneak the Dimensional Phobia onto the point here in order to recap it, stem the bleeding a bit. But we see them being pretty defensive, obviously healing up the Crushmore, and then we have a Klepto out of Claws. So it's Team Lobber against Team Hodgepodge here. I mean, there's some Lobbers, but there's also a Ray Chargels. I don't know. I don't really know where I was going with that one. The scary part here, though, is we do have a Miss Moffat. So right now, Claws does have 3 keys banked and has 18 keys worth of stuff. This is 5, 11, 14, 19, 22. It's pretty even given that there's going to be supplement from Claws. And Claws still has the panic point advantage. So at some point, Aqua's going to have to commit. Claws can retreat to, say, their panic point or their stim pad, and then annihilate whatever takes the center point, because odds are they're not claiming the top one. The Spider here, though, affords the opportunity to make something happen. The issue is the only place you're going to pull it is here, so that means that Ray Chargels can't be on the stim to connect. It's going to have to move. And right now, it's probably going to have to move to the center point, I guess, to allow for everything else to connect. Only the Jar and Crushmore will even be able to hit it right now. So this is going to be a little weird. It's going to be awkward, although I can respect the Spider here. So I'm expecting a boop. Oh, you get the AoE here. This was a cool play. We're going to rewind this. This was actually a cool play because I can absolutely understand why Aqua felt that this Jar was safe. But the problem is that you have both an AoE boop from this, which would have been able to do it, or you have the Klepto AoE. Now, the fact that the Hevo 1.0 dove is probably just sacrificing it, because right now it's going to take 1,014. Well, it's going to get blown up by Ray Chargels, let's put it that way. I don't know why I'm counting up the rest of it. Ray Chargels is going to get this covered no matter what. And we have a snowball. Gotta love the good boy. Get the good boy showing up to spit some fire all over the opposing team. So we're getting the pull on Hevo 2.0, which allows for an enormous amount of damage to be put on it. Even if you don't step on the stim, as we saw Ray Chargels, it just ensures the kill here. Now, Aqua is forced to advance the Spud because of the damage that's just coming in on the heart. It's down under 3k. You still have a little bit of time, but if you're taking... How much are these panic points? 235 piece, so with all three, that's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. And now, the majority of Aqua's army is super clustered. And they didn't take down the bottom Hevo. They elected to take down, well, the better Hevo. So we're looking at a pretty big deficit at this stage. You would think that, given how many Phobies were deployed on Aqua's side, that they were in much better shape. But ultimately, sniping that jar, the invade here from Claws, is pretty impressive. Claws with Snowball's inevitable. I feel like that's the case for a lot of people who have Snowball. Now we have the invading Klepto on the enemy stim. It's looking nasty. It's looking nasty. Really, I think this game came down to that one turn, which honestly, to me, feels like somewhat of a ballsy call. I don't know how many people would actually elect to go for it. And we're going to rewind it now because we know the game's going to end in short order. But I want to call back to this turn. If you think about it, hypothetical player out there watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube or in chat right now, I can still hear Hevo stomping. That was a little weird. I don't know how many people would be willing to make this play. You have a Ray Chargels on the stim. You have, you're only going to get like a single attack on any of this. It's dangerous to dive in here. Or it certainly seems dangerous on the surface. So in this case, I think this is a really good call from Claws, and I think this is a really strong play to just go for it. Maybe it's obvious from Claws' position. Maybe Claws never doubted it. But this feels super risky to me to a degree. If you suggested it to me, I'm like, that's insane. Your stuff is just going to die. But while some of these things do die, we ultimately see the Hevo go down because of this pull. It didn't matter because nothing else could get killed. This Hevo at this stage still has 700 health. So they get it with one shot from the Chargels. But the Chargels is heavily damaged. The Spider's heavily damaged. You have a Hevo 1.0 that's in position. I mean, we talked about this all already. But this is pretty cool. Making that aggressive play. But yeah, we saw how the rest of this played out. This is a pretty solid... How do I want to put it? Other than just saying it's a solid play like 10 times, because I'm trying to think of another way to phrase it, but I don't know that I personally would have seen that line, because I tend to play more defensively, and I probably would have backed off, and then I would have lost this game if I was playing it, to be perfectly honest. But the fact that the aggression came out when it did meant that it sealed up a game that may have otherwise gone the other way. So shout out to Claws for submitting this one, because I think highlighting that particular turn is important for anybody out there that's trying to improve at Phobies. Aggression, in a lot of cases, offers more than it does just on the surface. It's like, yes, I am pushing my opponent. I'm trying to clear the game out. Either I'm sniping Phobies to reduce their options, or I am pushing the heart to try and close the game. Either way, what happens in both of those scenarios, or in all aggressive scenarios, is that because you're pressuring your opponent, you do induce some panic on their side strategically. It also limits their options, not just, oh, I'm actually taking out a Phobie, but if you posture aggressively, most people are going to go, I don't want to lose my Phobie. I'm going to back off, or I'm going to put it in a weaker position, meaning that not this turn, but 2 turns from now, they couldn't quite reach where they needed to. They couldn't quite get to where they needed to be, and as a result, they end up losing the game. Here, we saw everything clustered, and although the jar appeared safe, it clearly wasn't. And taking those opportunities will win you some games where, like I said, you might otherwise throw them away. So again, shout out to Claudes for submitting this game. Much appreciated. If I get all the Hevos, can I combine them like a Power Ranger mech? It would be pretty cool if they actually had a combining set of Phobies, but I guess they kind of do in the Jackalopes and the Newly Deads to a degree. It's not quite the same, but, you know. I need to one-tap the Godzilla. Honestly, Barzilla has been a challenge for me. Like, playing against it. Because it just has so much health. It's tough to deal with. Because I just don't have a lot of stuff that's going to be able to burn it down very quickly. Mildred seems okay, but I have to wonder, is Mildred win more? Part of me says Mildred is win more. Been rambling a little bit off topic, so let's jump into this replay. This was submitted by Onda. This will be the last replay before I take a quick break, and then we're going to jump into some Fright Night stuff. But let's jump into this game on what I believe is RCO. So we have the bad guys going first in the blue corner, starting off with a Murder Wing, which is, again, probably the standard opener on this map until people come around to the stabby idea. Now, from Onda, we have a somewhat irregular opening, and that is Gravedigger breaking this back block in order to free the pocket panic point. So this does a few different things. One, it now is a 1, 2, 3, 4 move from your vault, so a 1-key Phobie can reach there in a single turn, or any Phobie as we see Creep come out. But it also gives the blue player a pretty, maybe not significant panic point lead, because we obviously see it equalize, but it gives them a little bit more freedom. They elected to bank on back-to-back turns all the way to 9, which is strange. I have to imagine there's a Hevo 3.0 coming out in their future, but here's the problem with their game plan. They being the blue player, must put something here, where just southwest of the Gravedigger, in between these 2 obstacles. Why? Well, this Gravedigger is going to come off cooldown soon, and then that means that they're going to Onda here is going to put a statue here and then lock them out from even getting to the center. They're going to have to take the scenic route, break it, flyers, whatever. But the point is that they can block this out. In the meantime, the majority of the panic points now go to our orange player. And we see the Creep and, of course, the Cottontail advancing. So what do we have from 9 keys? We have Mildred. You may have guessed that when we were looking at the, the intro part and Mildred being the MVP. This early in the game, I could see Mildred being pretty scary. It's a lob. It does 1 billion damage. It has a pretty wicked-looking animation. But we do see the statue come down from the Gravedigger in a retreat and a repositioning here. I expect the Cottontail here to eat it, so I'm not sure that Sheep is the follow-up you want. I can understand it, get the Sheep to connect with the Mildred, and then let it die on its own, but I don't even think you're going to get it. You're going to deal 590 4 times. It's not enough. Shouldn't be. I'm not actually going to count it up. Someone else can count it up. It's going to be close if it's not enough. So we do see the Cottontail go down and the Murder Wing eliminated permanently. Although the Murder Wing is now vulnerable to all of this stuff down here, obviously the Mildred support means that you can't really risk it. But we get from our orange player Fetch, which is one of the other MVPs, so we're going to have to keep an eye out for what Fetch does here. Right now, the onus is on the blue player, who is now 4 out of 5 Phobies on the board, committing an Unbearable. Another lobber, but it's slow, similar to Mildred, and now they have elected to sacrifice, essentially, the Murder Wing, because it's going to die. The only question that remains is what is going to kill it. And it seems like it's going to be fetch. Now, the problem here is we'll have to see if Onda repositions the sheep. We see a muffin onto the sheep. Now, the sheep is now sitting at 1,600 health. It can't get hit by the bear, because the bear won't be able to move into range. It could get hit by the jar and the Mildred, but that's only like 1,300 damage. Only. And again, all we want to do is have the sheep connect with Mildred. So if it actually stays in position, which it appears it's going to, or at least within range, that is, we'll hopefully be able to get a connection. Now, the sheep will clearly end up getting traded out, but the whole point is that you just want to get the poison on here, let it tick down, but correctly, blue player ends up body blocking here with a cowbell. It doesn't really matter what ends up body blocking as long as there is a body block. However, Fetch clears the path. I can see why Fetch is an MVP here. So Fetch pushes the cowbell out of the way, which allows the sheep to then connect with both. So it's getting even more value. Admittedly, not that much more. It's just a one cost, but you take what you can get. In the meantime, Creep comes in, collects a point. The previous Fetch move collects a point. We're able to free up more movement range by popping an obstacle back here with Gravedigger. The Mildred should still be on cooldown. Things are looking pretty good for Onda here. This looks pretty solid for Onda here. It also notably requires a pretty significant investment from the blue player in order to even kill the sheep off. Like, it took a jar hit as well as the unbearable hits. Not that really anything else would have gone anywhere, but you could have positioned differently to allow something to actually connect in a way that you want. So as a result, we have a lot of pressure coming down on blue player, but they do have an opportunity here. They could, similar to scenarios where you sheep an erratic, and you can tank through the poison because you end up just healing enough due to the splash. We have two Phobies down here that are pretty healthy, meaning that, you know, you're not going to hit a 2-health Phobie and leech no life. Mildred can move up and then clobber both the Stairmaster as well as the Fetch, which is what I expect to see happen here. So we get the big Mildred hit, which again, ridiculous animation, but hilarious. We get the enormous Mildred hit, but I will point out 3,200 health left on the heart, and it's 4-1 panic points. Both players are now out of keys. Given what we saw, like, there wasn't a whole lot of different Phobies that ended up hitting the board. This big investment in Mildred meant that, okay, well, this is basically their entire team. But aside from the Fetch, both of these are very slow, so it's going to take time to be able to reposition these in a meaningful manner. So this Fetch comes out here, but the Fetch is down to 1,100 health. It's dead. The Mildred is down to a mere 664 health. This thing is not long for the world, and it still needs to wait for the cooldown to come back. Oh no, it's off cooldown. It's off cooldown. But here's the bad news, which I'm going to bet our blue player did not see coming. That is savage! Oh, baby, look at this. Chat, would you look at this? Kaboom is right. Kaboom, that guy is mad. Boom, baby. Oh, no. Yeah, that's a big brain play. That's a big brain play. And just like that, the game ends. Boom, baby. Oh, that guy is mad. That was actually pretty cool. That was really cool, Onda. Thank you for sending that one in. That's for the highlight reel, folks. We saw a really cool play from Claus earlier. We had a really hilarious play last night with Jeeves. I forgot who had submitted it. But we have a really awesome play with Kaboom from Onda here. So shout out to Onda for submitting this replay. And Ouchtown, Population Mildred. Kaboom Gravedigger combo confirmed. Yep. Kaboom combo. I like it. Mildred's animation is ridiculous. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's hilarious. Alright, chat. Snowball is so flexible, plus Eternal Knight damage and sacrifice is really big. Yeah, the higher level Eternal Knights, and that's... I've mentioned it before, but Eternal Knight, I feel, was just... I don't like it, or didn't like it, because it was low-leveled, and I just didn't get it to a level that I wanted to. It also doesn't seem to quite fit my game plan yet, but we'll see. We'll see. Whew. It's been a night, chat. It's been a night. We have 21 hours for the weekly reward, 21 hours until the seasonal reward. We'll see what we get. We'll see what we get. We can probably do one more review. Without those two, this match would have been smoother. I mean, yes. If wishes were fishes. It's one of those... That's where we need a Tona. But we're going to jump into a Lufee versus Dr. Traffic game that happened. I haven't seen this game yet. So Doctor is new to the realm of Phobies. But Senor Rocket Man, the Rocket Master himself, Lufee, is starting with a somewhat... this is an okay opener. Because the one key can go up here and cap this top point. The Dimensional Phobie could go to the center. And Gesundheit goes over here and caps the center. Or caps, I guess. Not really caps, but stands on the stem. Now, the problem I have with this opener is I don't like the idea of the Dimensional Phobie going to the center, because as we've seen in several games so far, it dies and then just pulls something on there. Honestly, I would rather have seen the Dimensional Phobie go north and then Cowbell come to the center. Cowbell also represents more damage, for what that's worth. And then you could also pull something more relevant out of position later in the game if the one key survives. But we see Blinky following up, and then we also see another new Phobie. Blinky and Poison Ivy came in together in a more recent patch. This is a trap Phobie that actually is a poison trap Phobie. It also deals 506 damage. It's nothing to sneeze at. And compared to Venus, it actually has a 2 walk speed. 2 spaces, that is. That's exactly it, Onda. That's exactly it. So we see some caps coming out of Lufee, and of course, your favorite and mine, Rambolina. You gotta love a good Rambolina game. Whether Rambolina's gonna get any boops, we'll see. I think Venus is a bit better. Better than Poison Ivy? I could see it. You get the damage right away. The thing is that the movement on Venus makes it really complex. So we get a cute play out of Doctor with the leap onto the Blinky, meaning that there isn't, the Cassowary can get back out. We're talking about, I gotta pause it, down here. There was a leap if people didn't catch it, and then it backed off. So that means that the Cassowary's safe, it's not gonna die to the Blinky hit, and Blinky can't just recap the point, as opposed to Doc running away. Doc also elected to advance the Murder Wing, which I think is pretty cool. So now we have Panic Point control going to the good Doctor. But Lufee makes a good play here by cutting off the retreat of the Cassowary. The Cassowary is going to die down here. Now, Doc could shoo it away, but we'll see what happens. The Pterodactyl is something that I like on this map. It obviously lets you bypass having to walk around this way. You can get to the stem. It's ranged. As long as you're careful, it shouldn't die a permanent death unless you're losing. It also supplements Doc's forces in a way that aren't susceptible to Rambolina. Now, speaking of susceptible to Rambolina, we actually have a pull. We have Miss Moffat, who on this map, I've actually baited enough people, because I've done it at least 3 times, I think, baited people into taking my stim, and then yoinked them with the spider to drop them into the abyss. Now, I'm a little surprised here that Lufee elected to put the Dimensional Phobie here instead of sending it to this bottom panic point. The reason I say that is, again, Dimensional Phobie on this spot, it's going to pull whatever kills it onto the panic point. Now, Lufee may want that, because then it exposes whatever it is. Alternatively, this thing could have snuck down here and immediately capped this. And then you send the Cowbell here. And that means that the panic points are now favoring blue team. I don't know why Blinky is so cute to me. Admittedly, a lot of the Phobies are very cute. But we did have a trap here, which we couldn't actually see because sometimes it bugs. I don't know. Well, we see the follow from Dr. Traffic is in fact a yoink here to get a free 4-key kill. So that's 5 keys off the board for Lufee for mostly nothing. We see the Poison Ivy advance. It does attack, meaning that there's no trap. It's gonna die or should die. Actually, it has 1100. Okay, yes. It's gonna take 1800 and just get absolutely incinerated by this Gesundheit. Is that how germs work? Do they set things on fire? I don't think that's how they work. But anyway, so the Blinky is now trapped in the corner here, which is a little strange to me. I don't really... Like I said, I would have sent the Dimensional guy down there personally, but Blinky capping it is fine. That means more panic points are blue. We see a Barzilla and Finnegan follow-up. So Finnegan, in conjunction with Rambolina, could set up a multi-boop scenario and then cause the untimely demise of Miss Moffat or Wooly Bully. But I don't know if that's actually going to happen. The Murder Wing has decided it's time to get the hell out of Dodge, but it's not really safe up there because the Barzilla can move into range and soak in the Rambolina, which looks like that's what's about to happen. So that's a dead Murder Wing. You hate to see it. You hate to see it, chat. And now the Great Standoff has begun, but the panic points do favor Lufee. Whoop, sorry, I smacked the mic if you heard a weird noise there. The panic points favor Lufee, but Dr. Traffic has decided to go all in on big, mean nasties and go for boss. Now, Wooly Bully comes in and powers down the Gesundheit, but the Gesundheit should still be... Yeah, the Gesundheit's still doing a fair amount of damage. I don't think this was the correct move from Doc. I'm trying to click on the spider. So the spider's pull is active. I feel like I would have just waited. I think you wait here because now the spider dies without doing anything of value. Now, admittedly, this could be a bait on Doc's part. Wooly Bully is still alive, and Lufee has now kept everything in position. Position for what? For boss. So boss just comes in and hits these 3 and ignites them. But here's the problem. Lufee is doing Lufee things. Lufee is now surrounding Doc's heart, and that means that boss probably has to come up here and then fling fire onto these 3 to try and get them to back off, because otherwise Lufee is now in control of the stim, has 3 Phobies in range of the heart, and this is going to get messy quick. So Doc does elect to set fire to all these things. Unfortunately, with the way the positioning works, it doesn't land on the Barzilla. And it's also igniting the Pterodactyl spot. So lots of things that are not good. He is able to take down Finnegan, but the problem is that this Pterodactyl is now no longer long for this world. It's at 1600 health and on an obstacle, meaning that it's likely to die. Unless, as we see from Lufee, that it's just all heart all the time. And at 4100 health remaining with Barzilla and Rambolina in position, I can respect it. Lufee has control of panic points 4-1, in fact, and is able to follow up with the the ever-present Rocket Man, who's now collected the 5th and final Infinity Stone. I couldn't think of what they were called because I'm not a big Marvel movie fan. But he's collected all 5 panic points, and now there's a lot of pressure on Doc. Doc is elected to try and race, but you're not winning this race, Doc. It's not happening. I got bad news. This game did not go well for you? Yeah, it went south quick. I think there were things you might have been able to do differently. Like, I think the spider loss was a big deal. I think you might have been, like, a little too over-aggressive there. But here, yeah, this is not going to end well. I think we can all see where the writing is on this particular wall. Namely, that it is on the wall. We even get a freeze on the Pterodactyl. Which, as we learned in some other games, If you freeze a resurrect Phobie, they won't resurrect. So it's all over but the crying, because that's a Barzilla, Rambolina, and Moly Bully beating the snot out of your heart. I tend to always be aggressive, but I've only been playing for 2 weeks. That's fair, Doc. I mean, there are scenarios that you just have to see sometimes, like actually see it before you recognize it. And the value of the spider is, I think, one of them. Like, the yoink on that is super important, especially on a map like this. But that was a really cool game, so thank you to Lufee and the Doctor for submitting that one. If you're interested in getting your own name up in lights, join the Random Slots Discord. It'll be down in the video description for this, or ! Discord on the live stream. You can always come by that, RTChompGG over on Twitch. But that's gonna do it for this one. But like I said, that's gonna do it for this stream. So as always, everybody, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and Black Lives Matter.